No more boys will be boys.
No more. What's the big deal?
No more. It's just the way he is.
No more. He just has a temper.
No more, but he's such a nice guy.
No more, but he has such a bright future.
No more. Not my problem.
No more. I'll say something next time.
No more. Why didn't she tell anyone?
No more. Why doesn't she just leave?
No more. I'm sure they'll work it out.
No more. She seems fine to me.
No more. What was she wearing?
No more. She was drunk.
No more, he was drunk.
No more, she was asking for it.
No more, she never said no.
No more, not in this family.
No more, not on this team.
No more, we don't talk about that.
No more bystanding.
No more ignorance.
No more excuses.
No more.
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, here comes the, here comes the, y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, here comes the, here comes the, y'all don't really want it.
Football is comprised of 70% African American players, with 100% of the teams owned by white CEOs and presidents. So the question must be asked, does the NFL care about black people? This is the looming question that has been on the forefront of everyone's mind as they read the controversial media reports surrounding Colin Kaepernick and other football players kneeling during the national anthem. Other than people feeling like this is disrespectful to America, can we see other examples of exploitation throughout the sport? What does the sport say or perpetuate about African Americans as a whole? In football, it is clear, the body takes a hit. In fact, according to Washington Post's survey of retired NFL players, researchers found that 9 in 10 former NFL players reported suffering concussions while playing, and 2 in 3 who had already had concussions said they continued to experience symptoms from then on. But not only is the NFL hurting their bodies, they are also hurting their minds. Aggression is found to be one of the most common consequences of traumatic brain injury. In any given season, there are roughly 2,000 players who suit up in an NFL uniform, expecting on any given day that if they get hurt, they must keep going. But who tells them this? Society, manhood, the coaches? Don't they have autonomy over their bodies? The NFL makes it so that there are many financial incentives for playing through the pain. Much of the money in a player's contract is not guaranteed, so he does not get paid if he suffers a season-ending blow. Therefore, this can often encourage players to ignore or hide injuries. It is a very competitive business. There's always somebody ready to step in if you can't go, said defensive end Tioga Jackson, a district native who played from 1994 to 2006. It really comes down to one question. Can you go? You try to make sure that the answer to that is yes as much as possible. 9 in 10 players surveyed by the Post reported playing while hurt during their careers, and 56% said they did so frequently. Nearly 68% said they felt they had no choice in doing so, and 49% of the former players surveyed said they wished they played while hurt less often. Many said they were aware of a football career entailed sacrifices that would impact their long-term health. But football is a business, and the NFL executives want the players who can run faster, throw farther, and win games for them. But most importantly, everybody just wants money.
Outside the conference's closed doors, the new commissioner insisted that the NFL had the problem under control.
The evidence is that our doctors are making excellent decisions. That's proven by the 6-year study that we have and the research that's been done that looks at that issue intensively.
The head of Goodell's concussion committee, Dr. Ira Kasson, took on the critics.
Anecdotes do not make scientifically valid evidence. I'm a man of science. I believe in empirically determined, scientifically valid data, and that is not scientifically valid data.
Casson insisted there was no evidence that football players were at risk for CTE.
In my opinion, the only scientifically valid evidence of a chronic encephalopathy in athletes is in boxers and in some steeplechase jockeys.
The athletes are supposed to represent what Americans should be on and off the field, because not only is it important for the NFL to exploit black bodies, but it is also important for them to control their minds and co-opt them into the quote-unquote citizens they expect them to be, or maybe want them to be. The NFL has a problem that many people are aware of: domestic violence. Football players are notoriously known for having an extremely high rate of domestic abuse, so high that it cannot be unexcused or unnoticed. It is clear that the NFL supports this culture by demanding little repercussions. But are they actively breeding this culture, and on purpose? Does it erase many issues surrounding domestic violence? The NFL has a protocol for dealing with domestic violence issues, and the protocol does include the possibility of suspension. The commissioner retains the authority to discipline even players cleared by the judicial system. But the professional football, although it is a private business, it does get touched by some public responsibility. According to Suzanne Marie Ennick-Wenzer, it is important to look at domestic violence in sports through an intersectional lens, by taking into consideration how race and gender play in the structures of patriarchy and hegemonic white masculinity. Patriarchy was built on ideas of whiteness. Therefore, the idea that white man can't do wrong is still very much embedded in our culture. Because the NFL is a popular sport shown on millions of Americans' TVs, many people use this as their way to understand African Americans. If you look up domestic violence in NFL athletes, you can see that the majority of them are black. The accounts of domestic violence from black males can be seen as examples of the U.S.'s historical link with associating rage to black masculinity, thus characterizing them as the only perpetrators of domestic violence. It is easy to look at kneeling during the anthem, concussions, and domestic violence as separate issues, but by understanding how they all intersect and relate to broader notions of race and gender, you can see a common thread: the infrastructure of the NFL. The culture that the U.S. has around football may be entertaining, but it is also extremely dangerous. It forces many black athletes to put aside their race and gender to follow the white American ideologies that this game was created by. If these topics were allowed to be discussed, would things change? If the NFL put actual money towards preventing concussions, would domestic violence rates go down? Nobody knows the answer for right now, but one thing is for sure: some things need to change.